I'll talk about the different styles of learning that are used in education. These styles are what can help students rise in their education instead of falling behind. There are different ways that this information can be taught. Each of these is called a learning style. These vary from student to student, and I will discuss the different learning styles, how they are used, and their effectiveness in education. There are several different learning styles. Richard Felder writes in the 1988 issue of Learning and Teaching Styles in Engineering Education about these different styles. The first one, concrete or sensing. This pretty much uses observations that are done through your senses. Abstract or intuition. This is kind of done through perception of unconscious factors. This is kind of done like through speculation or like if you have a hunch about something. Visual learners. These people learn based off of sight or pictures or graphs. Auditory, people that learn better with words or certain sounds. And then active listeners, these people do better when they're working in real life situations out in the field. And then reflective learners. This involves examining and manipulating info mentally. So pretty much doing problems and then going over in your mind and discussing what it might be. Now that I've discussed these different learning styles, I'll explain how they're used in different classes. These certain styles can be used in varying classes. David Kolb writes in the 1981 issue of Learning Styles and Disciplinary Differences about how these can be used and what specific topics they best suit under. Sensing is really good for children with special education classes because they're pretty much learning these basic ways to receive information instead of doing more advanced stuff like reading in a textbook. Abstract, that's best used in something like astronomy or chemistry where you kind of have to think out of the box or start learning about things based off your inferences or your hypotheses. Your active learners, stuff like learning how to do agriculture or financial classes because you're doing things like handling people's money or learning how the plants grow and how to handle them. And then your reflective learners do best in their psychology courses. This is because they have to kind of take in what they're learning and run over the different factors mentally and figure out what the person's experiencing, like if they see certain symptoms like what someone with dissociative disorder might have or something like that. Now that I've discussed these different learning styles, I'll talk about their effectiveness and if they truly do work in the classroom. Douglas Carney writes in the second issue, volume 2 in 2002, of What We Know About How People Learn. He says, developing skills in learning as well as remembering are important goals for schools. The conundrum of how to respond to individual differences in learning and remembering has haunted educators for decades. Basically what he's saying is that some teachers don't know how to make all these different learning styles work for their varying students because not everyone learns the same. Another person, another journal written by Mark McDaniel, Doug Rohr, and Robert Bjork write in the 2000 issue of Psychological Science in Public Interest, write about that using these different educational learning styles in certain situations don't always benefit the student. They studied that the effectiveness wasn't that great where the teacher should be focusing exactly on everything that, or every student that has these different learning styles. I've now described the several styles of learning, how they're used, and kind of their effectiveness in the classroom. Our students develop in different ways. This leads to them needing different resources for their education. One person that I teach music to doesn't have an easy time grasping the concept of the note value. So instead of kind of teaching him based off the symbol of the note, we teach him based on the fractions or their real mathematical value. Douglas Carney he wrote about how instead of using fractions in education, you can present a student with a visual aid. So instead of using something that says 1/4, you could do a pie chart with 1/4 of it filled in. We should learn to recognize that all students learn the exact same way. This doesn't mean that we need to cater to every single one person because that doesn't benefit the entire classroom, but we should teach in a way that benefits and helps certain parts of each learning aspect.